Jesus came to give sight to the blind. Some of you think I mean blind literally, which he could do that too. Actually, Jesus wants to give you spiritual sight more than he wants to give you physical sight, because the worst thing can happen to a man is not that he die and go to hell, but he can die and go to hell not knowing Jesus. It would be better to be blind in this life and able to see in the next life, or able to see in this life from a spiritual standpoint, than to have 20/20 vision, but not be able to see the things of God. That's what Jesus came to do. He's our everything. I'm your host, Doctor of Common Sense. Thank you for joining us from Common Sense from God. We want to go to the Gospel according to John, the 9th chapter, the 35th verse. Now, we're just going to read those few verses, but we want to preface this and give you some backdrop on what the chapter is about. In the 35th chapter, the Bible says, Jesus heard that they had cast him out. And when he had found him, he said unto him, Doest thou believe in the Son of God? Stop right there. Jesus heard they had cast him out. Now, sometimes you're not going to be in certain cliques, but it's okay, because if they're casting you out for the purpose that you know Jesus, that's kosher with me. It says that, Doest thou believe in the Son of God? Now, Jesus didn't come and say, are they mistreating you? Don't you want to join their group? I can get you into that group. No, he says, Doest thou believe in the Son of God? He answered, the man answered, this is the man who was born blind, by the way, says, Who is he, Lord, that I might believe in him? Other words, introduce me to this Son of God so I could get some concept on who he is. Now, some interpretation says the Son of Man, Son of God. Most of the time when it says the Son of God, it's referring to the deity of Jesus. Most of the time when it says the Son of Man, it's referring to his humanity, even though the Son of Man can be referred to his reign as the Father. When he promised to David that his kingdom will never end, it was fulfilled through Jesus Christ. And he goes on and says, and Jesus said unto him, Thou hast both seen him, and it is he who's talking with your life. You've been looking for the Son of Man, the Son of God. Here I am. Jesus said unto him, You can see him, you can get to know him. The man said, Lord, I believe. That's the good news. The man says, Lord, I believe, and he worshiped him. Now, if Jesus wasn't God, he was in violation, allowing this man to worship him. And Jesus said to him, For judgment I come into the world, that thou which see not might see, and they which might be made blind, and that they which see might be made blind. And some of the Pharisees which were with him heard these words, and said unto him, Are we blind also? Jesus said unto them, If you were blind, you should have no sin. But now ye say, We see, therefore your sin remaineth. It would be good if you believe. Now the Pharisees, I firmly believe that they knew who Jesus was. All of this time they had been waiting for the Messiah to show up. But it wasn't the kind of Messiah that they were looking for. They wanted him to ride in on the white horse and just take over the Roman Empire. That's coming. Now, when you look at what happened in this particular text, Jesus, they says, there was a blind man who had been blind from birth. Now his disciples says, Master, who sinned, his parents or him that caused him to be blind? Now, most people want to blame any bad situations. Most of the time, they want to blame it on something that the people have done or the parents have done. Sometimes it may be just for the glory of God. This is what Jesus talked about. But at least the disciples referring to the suffering of man for sin. That's why man is in the shape he's in now, because sin is in the world. Jesus answered, Neither hath this man sinned, nor his parents, but that the works of God should be made manifest in him. Then Jesus says, I must work the works of him that sent me while it is day. The night cometh when no man can work. There's going to be a time that you want to work, you can't work. So it's good to work right now. Now, the fifth verse alludes to what Jesus was talking about in Luke, the 4th chapter. In the 5th verse, it says, as long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. That's the light of the world. Now, you're supposed to be light and salt also because you are of Jesus. And he says, when he had spoke this thing, Jesus just spit on the ground, got some mud, mixed together, put it on the man's eyes, and said, go down to the pool of Siloam. And he went down there and he came back seeing. Now, this is a man who had been sitting out here begging all this time. He was blind. Now, Jesus, I believe Jesus can heal you of any ailment if he so chooses to do. All the time you don't get a healing. Paul had an infirmity. It wasn't relieved of that. But Jesus is still in the miracle working business. But when I'm talking about blindness now, I want to speak on more of a spiritual blindness. But this is a good lesson to teach because this could be seen both ways. Now in the 8th chapter, now you think if say you used to be rotten to the core and all of a sudden you start serving God, do you actually think that everybody's going to start liking you? They're going to start saying, that's so great that you're not acting like you used to act. That's not what they're going to say. They're going to get upset with you. Now, there's going to be some people going to be happy for you. But there's going to be some people that's going to start trying to mock you. You're going to see the Pharisees and some of these people. They're going to be upset because this man who had been suffering and had been born blind now sees. They say his neighbors, therefore, as they saw who he was, that he was the man who used to sit there and was blind. And some says that this is the man that used to be down here begging. This is the blind fella. Some says, nah, it looked like him, but I don't know if that's him. Therefore, they went over to him and says, no, as a matter of fact, while they was talking back and forth among themselves, saying, is it he? No, it's not he. Now, he's sitting right here that he can see now. Instead of just going up and asking him, say, oh, you the man who used to be down here begging. They just going back and forth. Finally, he just gets tired of it and says, I'm he. Just interrupt him and says, yeah, I'm the man that was born blind. I was down here blind. And they says, okay then. Therefore, they said unto him, how was thy eyes opened now? We want to get to the source of this thing that happened to you. Now, we know you was blind. You said you was blind. How is it now that you see? This is the good news. This is what you can say to anybody. This could be your testimony. When people say you used to be rotten to the core, you were spiritually blind, you were malicious, you were doing things you had no business doing, and then you can say what the man says. They said, and he answered them and says, a man that they call Jesus. That's it right there. When they says, how is it that you used to do these things and act like this? How is it that you used to do this and say this? And then they say, a man called Jesus made clay and anointed my eyes and said to me, go to the pool of Siloam and wash. I went and washed. That's how I got my sight. They said, that sounds like an interesting story, but we got to get some more evidence. We need to get you cross-examined, so to speak. So they brought him to the Pharisees. Now, you know, these holy Pharisees. Everybody got a Pharisee in their church. Everybody got a Pharisee in their family. These are the holy rollers who are always more holy than. Now, they going to rebuke this blind man so bad, almost going to make him feel sorry that he even got his sight. Poor man been blind all of his life, and now he finally see. He thinking everybody will be saying, yes, we glad you see. Oh, no, they want to examine this thing. It's obvious this is him. They're going to even go get his parents and think. This is how people act. They brought him to the Pharisees, and the Pharisees said unto him, are you the man that was born blind? Well, we know that this Jesus fella couldn't be of God because it's the Sabbath day. And on the Sabbath day, you can't be doing miracles and giving sight to the blind. Now, something as miraculous as this, you would think that the Pharisees says this is of God. Pharisees asked, okay, let's get down to this, but the bottom line of this thing says, okay, you receive your sight, huh? What happened? Just give us a testimony, please. Testify for us. And so he said this fella they called the Jesus spit on the ground, got clay from the spittle, and told me to go down here and wash. Therefore, some of the Pharisees says, no, what day was that? Oh, that was on Sabbath. He don't keep it the Sabbath. Yeah, God allowed him to open the blinded eyes, but he don't keep the Sabbath. Oh, you legalistic Pharisees, you. These are Jewish Pharisees. They got a bunch of legalists today too. Will tell you what you can't eat. Oh my God, you ate some pork. You're not of God. It's not of God. I'm not in bondage because you in bondage. You want to be in bondage? Fine and dandy with me. I will not be a prisoner. I'm not under the law. I'm gonna help you out. I'm not under the law. So they want to get real holy roly on him. He says, others said, how can a man that is a sinner do such miracles? In other words, they starting to question the Pharisees now. Now, you know this got to make the Pharisees mad because they got these holy things wrapped around them. They got it tied around their head. They look so holy. The people respect them. Hi there, Rabbi, in the synagogue. You know how they do. People just love for other people just to praise them, how wonderful they are. So the man said again, it says, how can a man that is a sinner do such things? And there was a division among them. They started arguing amongst themselves. They said unto the blind man again. Now look, they already asked him one time. He gave them the answer, but he didn't give them the answer that they wanted. That's the key. He answered them, but they didn't get the answer that they wanted. He said, what says thou then? What happened? The man said, he's a prophet then. But the Jews did not believe concerning him. They said unto him, who had received his sight, let's go call his parents. Now this fella, I know he's talking a good thing, but maybe he don't know what he's talking about. He's a little delusional or something because he didn't got his sight. He's been blind all this time. So technically, we need to go get his parents for some character witnesses up in here. And they asked him, saying, this is your son, right? This is your boy? Yeah, this is our son. He was born blind. Yep, was born blind. How is it that he see now? Now, they asked him. He gave them the answer. Wasn't the answer they wanted. They said, we're going to go to his parents. His parents weren't even there when he received his sight. But they want to ask the parent, this your son? Yeah. Was he born blind? Yes. How did he receive his sight? Ask him. He's of age. Don't be asking us. Because they didn't want to get kicked out of the synagogue. This is the problem, too. Most of you want to be in the little clique of circles and certain little bitty cliques and things. So you don't want to say nothing. They can get you kicked out like, who you think you are. It says, he's of age now. Why are you asking us? Why don't you just ask him? He right here. He said, this is a grown man. Won't you ask him? They were scared of the Jewish people. And again, they came to the man. I said, okay, then they said, we'll ask him again. They came to him again and says, give God the praise. That's what you need. Just go ahead and give God the praise. We know that this man is a sinner. Listen to this. We know this fella that you're talking about named Jesus is a sinner. Now, won't you just give God the praise? He answered and said, whether he be a sinner or no, I don't know about that right there. He said, I'm not privy to that information whether he's a sinner or not. He said, all I know is I once was blind, but now I see. Booyah. That's the evidence. You can argue all day long. People can argue all day long with you. You can say, I once was blind, but now I see. Oh, what about this right here? They don't need to talk about that. I'm saying I once was blind, but now I see. Now, notice that the Pharisees wanted to, it was almost like that thing when they had brought the woman who had been caught in the very act of adultery. And when she came to him, they said, get her. They didn't bring the man. No, they didn't bring the man. Get her. So Jesus started writing and said, okay, then you bunch of holy rollers, I'm going to see how many of you ain't got no sins up in here. Nobody was left. So there they are. They upset because they didn't question the man twice. He gave them the answer. Then they went and got the parents. And then they told the parents, you need to tell us how this boy got his sight. This is our son. He was born blind. Ask him. He said this fella that you say he's a sinner, he must be a prophet. I don't know what you talking about. I never heard of sinners doing miracles like this. He said, I already told you how I got my sight. Tell us again. Then the man got a little irritated with him. He got irritated with the Pharisees, and boy, they going to lose their cool on that. He says, I told you what he did. Now, do you want to become his disciples? And they said, oh, we're disciples of Moses. We know that God spake through Moses. As for this fellow, we don't know whence he even come from. I think they may have been trying to cast a little shade. Said, I heard his mama supposed to have had a virgin birth or something. And then the man answered and said to them, where here is the marvelous thing that you don't know whence he is, but my eyes is open. Booyah. You don't know. You can talk all you want to. He says, I was blind, now I see. You say you don't know where he came from. You say he's a sinner. You say he's not of God. But I don't remember nobody not being of God opened the eyes of people that was born blind. Boom. He said, how do you able to do this now? Is what they're trying to say. Boy, they became besides themselves. See, the man started telling them, now, we know God don't listen to sinners, right? Like this. And but if a man is a worshiper of God, God heareth him. The blind man is preaching to them. Preach, son. Where you coming from? What text you coming from? He says, since the world began. Then he says, since the world began, we ain't never heard no stuff like this. Jesus said, I came to set the captive free. That's what he was speaking about in Isaiah, the 61st chapter. You remember in Luke, over there in Luke, like the 4th chapter, he actually gives this, Jesus come through there, and they was talking, he says, when they delivered him to the scroll, they said he pulled out the book of Isaiah, 61st chapter. They didn't have chapters there. He said, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He had sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, and to recover sight of the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised. Gave them back the thing and says, booyah! This particular passage has just been fulfilled. I'm here. I'm here now. This is what the man was telling them in so many words. We ain't never heard no stuff like this before. This must be who that John the Baptist fella was talking about when he says, behold, the Lamb of God that taketh away the sins of the world. Now think about this. Now they get mad after he said, this man says this, and they ask him, altogether you've been born in sin. You filthy sinner, you. You trying to teach us something? We Pharisees. They said, get out of here. They threw him out. Now, the parents ain't saying nothing right here because the parents said, we want to stay in the synagogue with these bunch of heathens. They says, you got the nerve to be trying to preach to us? You got the nerve to be trying to preach? We holy, man. You talking, we Pharisees. You got the nerve. You was born altogether in sin. That's why you blind. Because you ain't nothing but a filthy sinner. Your parents are sinners too. Get out of here. Kick them out of the synagogue. That's what we picked up on the 35th verse right there. Because he got kicked out now. And now Jesus in the church. Now Jesus heard he got kicked out. Jesus heard, that's good news right there, son. Now you're on your way. Jesus heard that they had cast him out. And Jesus found him. Jesus heard they had cast him out. And Jesus found him. Oh, it says, I found Jesus back on. So no, you didn't find Jesus. Jesus found you. Jesus heard that he had cast out. And Jesus came there. He didn't say, did they hurt your feelings? Oh, did your feelings get hurt? Oh, did you die? He says, doest thou believe in the Son of God? He said, I want to talk to you about this God thing now. Since you got your sight, now you can see. Now I can speak to you about spiritual things. Ain't no need you trying to speak to somebody who's not, who's completely blind spiritually about spiritual things until God works on their heart. You need to pray for them. No, I'm not telling you not to preach them because God may be working through your word right now. But Jesus knew. Jesus said, let me take the blindness off first. And now we can talk about some spiritual. I ain't gonna come to you and say, did the Pharisees kick you out of the synagogue? Who cares? Doest thou believe in the Son of God? He answered him, who is he, Lord? That I might believe on him. Jesus said unto him, thou hast seen him, and it is he that's talking with you. I'm here. And today it's fulfilled. Did you read Isaiah the 61st chapter? It's here. Giving sight to the blind. Jesus said unto him, thou hast seen him, and it's him who's talking to you. And he says, Lord, I believe. Boom. Lord, I got faith. Lord, I believe. He said, Lord, I believe. And he worshiped him. That's the key. He believed and he worshiped him. That could be a sermon right there. He believed and he worshiped him. The blind man who was once blind now sees and he worshiped him. Jesus said, for judgment I come into the world that they which see not might see. Spiritual glasses. You got to put on your spiritual glasses. And they that which see might be made blind. Oh, that's a bunch of... Now, let me help you out. There is nothing wrong. God is a holy God. He lacks holiness. But when you have a pretense of your holiness as opposed to the holiness of God, they being ignorant of the righteousness of God has went about to establish their own righteousness and have not submitted themselves to the righteousness of God. That's what the Pharisees' problem was. Oh, that's what their problem was. Oh, no. You didn't see the Pharisees doing that. Their hearts was just black, though. On the outside, they looked holy, but on the inside, they was like dead man bones inside a sepulchre. I mean, literally. I mean, the decay of the heart. See, people look at people's outside and says, that look holy. Oh, that looks like a holy family. That looks like a holy woman. That looks like a holy man. On the inside, filthy, vile. I mean, if you actually had a little bit of one of those little bubbles that pop up when you be doing those little things, they pop up. If you could actually let that bubble pop up and what's going on in people's heart, you'll be absolutely shocked. Jesus said, for judgment I come into the world that they which see not might see, and they which see might be made blind. Now the Pharisees, they hear again, they got something to say on there like, hold on a minute now, Jesus, they said, which were him, they heard his words and they says, are we blind also? Are you talking to us? Are you talking to me? You talking to me? You talking to us about the blind? And Jesus said, you know what? If you were blind, you should have no sin. In other words, if you just admitted you was blind, if you admitted that you had a problem, you could easily get some of this sight that the blind man just received. But you say that you are able to see, therefore your sin remaineth. Unless you confess your sin, yes, you can think you see all you want to, yes, but the bottom line is you're blind because you have not accepted the things of God. That ain't but one who's ever walked this earth that don't need a savior. And that's the one they talking to, the Son of Man, the Son of God. The Pharisees were blind. The blind man was physically blind. He received his sight. The Pharisees was able to see physically, but they were spiritually blind, but they was holy. Everybody respected them. You ever get that? You ever see those people just be heaping praise on certain people? They'd be respect. Oh my God, just respect. Ain't nothing wrong with you giving certain people respect. But you should respect somebody who's of God a little bit more than you respect somebody from the outward appearance. Because people can put on good shirt. You can go look at people who was never even a Christian. They got some people that was distant. They haven't involved themselves in a whole lot of sinful things, as the world will call sin, but their heart is black. They don't never give God the praise. They've never repented of them sins because they think they're holy. That's the problem. You know, there's a lot of people going to go to hell because they think they are superior and spiritually superior, and therefore their sin remains. That's what Jesus was talking about the Pharisees. So he came to set the captives free, and he wants you to be free. He wants you, other words, to put on some spiritual glasses so that you can be like the blind man and worship him. He seeked Jesus. Jesus seeked him first. And he said, I want to get to know him and the power of his resurrection. And he worshiped him.